Happy Mother's Day. Hi, it's Terry Fender, your ARBA District 8 Director, and thanks for visiting us today for the third virtual D8 Youth Workshop. And today we're featuring another California judge. California's really came through for us really well, and we appreciate that. We started off with Kathy Shoda, I'm working on that. And then we had Armando Cabrera. Today, we've got noted breeder and judge, Misty Polasik from California. She's going to be speaking with us today on a variety of breeds, Lilacs, Lionheads, American Sables, and more. And I really want to thank Kathy and Armando and today Misty for taking part in this. This is primarily for our District 8 youth, but hey, everyone from across the ARBA, America, Canada, wherever, we're glad to have you here today. With that said, I'll be quiet and turn this over to Misty. And then when she's done, I'll come back and say a few more words. So thanks a lot. Misty, take it away.
Good afternoon, D8 and ARBA and all the other members. We have a short slideshow today to share with you. And the slideshow is going to give you some information about 3 breeds in particular. And for those that would like to participate in a fun facts quiz, there are 10 questions that you can email me today at the end of the presentation, and I have little prizes to send out. So it kind of makes it interactive and fun. So let's see, moving on to our first breed. Well, fun facts slide. There we go. So the 3 breeds that we're going to look at today, the Lionhead, the Lilac, the American Sable, they all have rollback fur. And some of the fun facts to think about are, what is rollback? How is it different than flyback? And I have asterisks down here for you. The rate of return, so a fast return when stroked from tail toward the shoulder, toward the head, or a slower, more gradual return. These things are affected by length of coat, by density, and of course, if the rabbit's out of coat, that can definitely affect the thinness, the evenness of the coat, and sometimes it won't have a return at all. The Lionhead does have rollback fur, even though they're known for that beautiful mane encircling their head, but their fur is only on the saddle, and you only evaluate the rollback portion of the saddle. So we'll look at that today too. And what fur type competes in commercial fur classes? So that's something to think about. We have a commercial fur class. All 3 of these breeds are 4 class. So some of you might have already learned the difference between a 4 class and a 6 class breed. There's 1 extra show class in there for your 6 class animals, and that is your intermediate, your 6/8. And your 6 class breeds, they tend to be, well, they are, in fact, larger animals, and they allow for that intermediate class as a showroom class. And of these 3 breeds that we're going to look at today, we have 1 that's rare, and the rare breeds have been designated and have a brand new sanction this year with the ARBA, and Lilacs are part of the rare breeds and the rare breed list. And of the breeds that we're going to look at, there are breeds that are considered commercial type animals, but are still 4 class. So they're still smaller, but they have a commercial type, a medium body length. And we're going to look at that today with our American Sable. So keep in mind these terms that we're going to cover, and we're going to talk about what the shadow bar is also. That's kind of a fun and unique term. All right. First, we're going to talk about the Lionhead. And here you have 3 recognized colors of Lionhead. And the most important single highest point category is the mane, 35 points. And then body is 25. And so I kind of gave you some terms on the left-hand side of this slide. And these are the terms that you think of when you're evaluating a Lionhead. Obviously, mane is pretty important. That's over 1/3 of their grade. And transition wool, that's wool anywhere outside of the mane. It can be found on the hips, the flank. It can be found along the body of the animal. And transition wool is never considered. It really, as long as it's under 4 inches on the flank, it's just part of their poofiness. The The wool cap is that extra wool at the base of the ear, and that can be longer than the foreface wool. That has to be 1 inch, but the wool cap is what kind of enhances the mane. They have to have a side separation, and they do need to have a clean saddle. So I'm going to show you some examples of a Lionhead as soon as we're done with the slides, and what wool looks like in the saddle. The wool is always crimped as opposed to a guard hair, which is straight. So when you're trying to determine, is it wool or is it a guard hair, look to see if the actual fiber is straight or if it has a crimp, which is evident in that mane of the animal. They are our example today of a high head mount breed. They pose on the table very high, resting on their front feet to show the full mane when they're in their pose. You should be able to see their chest and their mane. And that's it for these guys. That's kind of your brief summary, and then we'll look at some live animals in a minute. Next, our summary is going to cover lilac. So here you have 3 shades of lilac, and it may not be as clear on screen in the photo, but I have a very light animal in the middle, and then I have more of a gradient on the left and on the right. So for your lilacs, 35 points on body, single highest subcategory for points, but then color and fur, those two really go hand in hand, because it's difficult to have good color if they're out of coat. Because when you're out of coat, it very much affects the evenness of the color, the way the color lies over a rough coated animal versus a prime coated animal. So I put those two together because it's really difficult to talk about color in absence of fur or fur quality. If it's poor, it's definitely going to affect your surface color. So those two things really are hand in hand together. They make it 45 points. Color is the second highest single point category in the lilac, and it is to be very uniform. That's one of the most important features of this breed, is you don't want to see rust or dark colored areas along the skirt and the belly of the animal. It should be complete and uniform and one color, this medium dove gray with a delicate pink tint over the surface of the guard hairs. And it just makes that animal just shine and just have this delicate glimmer to them. They have a soft fur that should be very dense. And the best evaluation tip is to look for balance in this breed. You definitely don't want to overemphasize type if the animal's out of coat and therefore has blotchy or very inconsistent surface color. But on the other hand, an animal that has really beautiful coat and color, but it's really poor type, is not showing the full balance of this breed. This breed is so unique in its color. They really do have an absolutely phenomenal coat structure and a color that carries all the way down to the skin. That delicate pink tint is one of the most beautiful features of this breed. They are on your rare breed list. And of the pictures here on your slide, the animal to the far right in the trio photo has the most correct medium color, as well as the animal on the right, the single photo. The one in the middle is very light, and the one on the left is darker than medium. So it gives you kind of a spectrum there to kind of gauge color. All right, next we have American Sable, and your overview of this breed, another beautiful color breed. Really love this animal. The difference here is this is an example of a 4-class breed, so they are a little smaller on the senior size spectrum, but they have a medium body length. So unlike our Lionhead and our Lilac, who are compact and they're to be fairly short and well-rounded in body type, the American Sable has more of a medium length of body. They are to have the same description of the body. It's just a little bit longer in terms of overall body length. So for this breed, just like your Lilac, there are a lot of points on color and fur together. So the body is the single highest point category, 40 points. And then your color, 25 points, and fur is 20. Again, if you're out of fur, it's going to definitely affect your surface color and your blending. This is a rabbit that it's really important to see this smooth blending of that dark sepia shade, darker over the extremities, and the feet, the tail, the legs, the head, the ear, and that saddle. And then it will kind of fade and blend into a lighter sepia down through the sides of the animal. And the picture here, you can see this rabbit is just coming into a senior prime, still a little dark, a little abrupt in the shading over that shoulder. And as evidence of this transition of coat, I've taken some photos of this animal and the shadow bars. Those are lighter streaks of color. They can appear as bars across the lower feet and legs. It is a color fault. And I often see it when they're like this animal just transitioning into that beautiful final dark sepia shade of prime fur. There's still a little transition and that shading hasn't yet gotten complete. So this breed also needs to have a slower return to that fur. So not quite as quick, not quite as short. Like the lilac, 1 inch is ideal for the length of fur, and you want them to be dense and soft. Same thing with the American Sable. It is to have a fine, soft, dense coat of fur. So let's see, next are our quiz questions. We have covered these in that quick overview. And if you're interested in playing along, you can write your answers to these 10 questions and send me an email. And I have some prizes for the kids that want to do a little interactive. Some of these questions are tough. You may have to look some things up, but we do cover all of these things in here. So next up, we're going to show you some of these animals in person so I can give you a little bit more visual to go with that summary of evaluation. First, Lionhead. Okay. This very cute helper is a little 8-week-old baby. And this is just to demonstrate the proper pose for a lionhead. So they sit really high off those front feet. They just rest lightly on the table. And they are to be deep, round through that body. And they sit up high so that you can see the full chest when they're posed. So when his head is in the proper position, you can see the full chest of this baby without having to really do much to him. So this is how a proper lion head should sit. And now I'll demonstrate one with a bunch of mane and some wool in the saddle to show you how to determine wool in the saddle. Okay. So first, when you have a lion head, we talked about side separation. So to determine if they have a separation between the wool around the head and the transition wool on the body, you can just lift the mane and you look for that rollback fur that comes up the front leg and it joins the saddle. And the easiest way to do that is to start from the bottom. So you lift the mane and then you follow the fur up those front legs, and you can often see a separation between the wool of the mane and then the wool of the body. And this doe has a clean rollback saddle. She doesn't have any wool in that saddle. It's very uniform, it's short, and wool has crimp. So a wool fiber will look a little bit like a zigzag. And a guard hair fiber is straight. So I'll show you wool in the saddle. So to determine wool in the saddle, you just stroke the fur from tail to head. And I don't know if this is capturing it. There we go. And the wool is longer than the guard hair, and it has that little bit of crimp on the end. So the guard hair is straight, but that little crimp that you see is wool in the saddle. And that simply means that this animal hasn't shed out yet for show. So she just needs a little more time to completely clear that saddle and to be ready for competition. Next, we're going to talk about lilacs. Ta-da! So here is an example of a very good shade of medium dove gray. So she's got a compact body type. She's round, she's wide, she has a good depth of loin, and she carries to a full lower hindquarter. Her fur is soft, uniform, medium dove gray. And you probably can't see from that angle the pink tint on the surface, but they have a very light pink tint over those guard hairs. And I'm gonna line up 3 rabbits for this demonstration to see, to show you medium, very light, and then very dark. And that helps to, I think, train your eye onto what is that intermediate kind of the right hue, the right shade of lilac. So this is a very light rabbit. That's a pretty dramatic contrast right there. These are both purebred lilacs. This one is from the UK. So their lilac breed is very similar. In fact, one of our history books shows the American lilacs being imported from England. And the England rabbits tend to be very light, very soft in texture, but very light. And this is an example of a rabbit that's too dark. So you can see between these 3 lilacs, you've got a dark animal, you've got an animal that's too light, and the correct hue is a medium dove gray right here in the center. And that's Vista right here. So you're looking for that delicate pink tint, medium dove gray, dense, soft. Okay, American Sables. Come here, buddy. Our last and final breed is this handsome rabbit. Beautiful shading. They are a medium body type. So they're a little longer than our lilac, but they still should be well-rounded with a lot of depth and width through that loin and hindquarter. And they are a commercial body style in a 4-class breed. There are several other examples of a 4-class commercial body style, and that's in your quiz today. As you think about these animals, you think about what are the smaller commercial profile animals, and a hint is they have an Angora variety too that are 4-class. Your American Sable is another example. And commercial body type is not the same as commercial fur. So one of the questions that has come up is commercial fur class, is that open to your commercial body style animals? And it's really only about the fur structure, not about the type of the animal. So in a commercial fur class, you could have very small compact breeds competing with your more traditional commercial breeds, like your cows and your New Zealands, because it's only judged on the flyback rate of return and commercial texture and structure of that fur. So that's also on the quiz. So with that, that's all I have today for our brief overview of 3 rabbits and 3 breeds and more. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for tuning in.
Here and giving of your time, I really appreciate it there. Thank you. Amanda, are there any questions coming in online for Misty?
So far, it looks like we have some people that have come that have said that they are talking in or chiming in from Arkansas, Michigan. We've got Ohio, New Jersey. It looks like we also had someone pop in there that was showing that they looked like they were watching from Manitoba.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we are actually a few minutes or a few seconds behind the people, so they possibly are just now seeing that you guys are asking for questions.
Okay, Misty, maybe while some other questions are coming in, I've got one here. I guess I always think about when judging and some of the breeds I've raised. Looking at the standard, let's say you've got like the American Sable or the Lilac, and you've got one that's probably the ideal collar, but there's still a little blotchiness around the sides. Then you've got another one that's maybe a little light or a little dark, but it's very even and consistent. How would you look at that when you're judging them?
That's a good question. It's sometimes a real balancing act to try and put forward the animal that is the best in all categories. And it really comes down to, I think, the best typed animal that also has the best finish, texture, the right fur structure, rollback. And in that case, if you had an animal that was a little off in surface color versus an animal that was a little darker but very finished and prime, if it had the right texture and otherwise a really good type, probably would be up a little bit further in the class than an animal that hadn't yet gotten that uniform evenness of surface color. Because when they're blotchy, you're looking at really two different shades, and it really detracts from that surface color appearance, unless there was something really faulty in type with the animal that was very finished and prime, or it was very excessively dark. That's in a severe fault, excessive dark or excessive light in our standard. So assuming that it was just more of that, the medium dark versus the true medium dove gray, that's probably what I'd look for, is trying to put up the most uniform, finished, well-furred, good typed animal. And often you've got to kind of weigh too closely because they come in very, very close at times.
Cool. And those collar breeds in the summer, real fun, aren't they?
Yes, that's a trick. Yeah, they have to have fans. They need to be kept cool because they tend to get, especially bucks, when you're dealing with lilac and some of the other dilute colors, they'll darken and they'll get rust all along that skirt, that lower flank. Very frustrating because there are so many points. And when they get rusted, it often changes the texture. So then it does two things. It ruins your color and it affects you in your fur points. So it's really important. This doe I keep inside. Actually, all my lilacs are inside so that they can stay really even and very uniform all the way along the flank of the rabbit, all the way along through the belly. Same color, same consistency of fur, very uniform in that beautiful, delicate dove gray fur. They really are just like a little mink-like rabbit. But she's spoiled. She's inside. She's got fans. I keep her cool.
Cool.
And I've got quite a few things coming on here. Can you go ahead and we will also comment, but right this moment, I'm kind of busy with the lives and watching the stuff, to post to what is your email address that you would like them to send the quiz answers to?
Oh, sure. It is my name, MISTY, LEA7 @yahoo.com. And that's it'll be in the slides for the instant replay, but it looks like that. I don't know if that's clear. Oh, it comes in backwards on screen.
No, it's fine.
That's not going to help anybody.
It came on fine for me. But we will,
oh, okay.
I will comment on these individually that have asked for the question or asked for the email address, but currently
yes,
it's a little bit difficult. I have here, it looks like someone is asking, how often do you get dark lilacs in a litter?
That's a good question. Your litters and the shade can vary. Some of the shades can be impacted by housing, as Terry mentioned. So if you're noticing that you're getting darker animals that might be exposed to weather or wetness around the outside of the cages, even sunlight can be really hard on them to finish an even uniform coat of fur. For my litters, they're pretty uniform. they are probably, I would say probably 80% are about exactly what I'm looking for as far as color. The lilac as a breed, they tend to get darker. So not just with age, but as successive generations, if you're not carefully monitoring that hue, that real delicate medium dove gray, you'll lose that dove, that really light pink tipping. You'll start to lose that. So for some reason, this breed, it's more common to see darker examples than it is to see really true medium dove gray. And you have to be very diligent to select away from the darker hues that might pop up in a litter and try to keep that real delicate surface color. And even some animals that they'll start to rust, they'll start to get off colored back here, down along the sides, the hock, the skirting. I tend not to keep those. I'm looking for an animal that will completely prime out and have consistent uniform color, texture, and also just to keep a soft texture. Sometimes you'll notice your bucks, they might feel a little bit heavy in that guard hair. That's incorrect for this breed. They are to be soft. So a heavier guard hair often can enhance the brilliance of color, making them appear even darker than they might be. So you've got to look at a couple of things. Fur structure, your genetics in your line. If you start to see darker animals like this buck I showed earlier today, these are the ones I typically remove from my program. So when I start to see them getting dark, and he's a little prime line, and you can see these guys in really good lighting side by side, he's quite a bit darker in lilac color. He is an aged buck, and they do tend to put on, they do tend to darken up, but his texture is what I love, is even for a 4-year-old buck, he has kept a soft, dense, very even and uniform shade, not any rust, and he's one of my breeding bucks. So I only breed him to my lighter colored does because I know the tendency is to get dark. So you do have to keep an eye on that.
And then is there a possibility that you could, for the version that we put on our YouTube, if you can give us some pictures of the animals that you're actually speaking about today, about their colors, just because there seems to be some video quality differences right this
Yeah,
month.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the slideshow, I tried to put a trio of lilacs so that you can see that there was a very light one, a very medium dark, and then a very correct medium dove gray in the slideshow. I tried to give it a 3 side by side. But I can add a few more and show a dark variety. I have an excessively light that I use in my program because I love the European lilac fur is the densest I've ever seen, and it is excessively light. That's a fault in this breed. But because I know their tendency is to get a little bit heavier in that guard hair, lose some of the soft texture, and to get a little dark, I started bringing in my import lines to really keep and preserve and maintain that delicate dove gray with that pink tint. And that's where the Europeans have really enhanced the color of my program, because these guys are truly pink. And that really makes a difference when you're trying to maintain that. So you can see already very, very different coloration. And these guys, they really have just a gorgeous fur quality. It's extremely luxurious, and it has a very delicate pink tint. As you look at these rabbits out in the sun or in lighting, you can see that pink tint, which is what we really need to maintain in our breed. And getting that uniform coloration all the way down to the skin, as deep as possible. But I'll put a few of these photos up as well because they're kind of fun to see the variations in lilac, and then to train your eye to find medium. If you are so used to seeing dark animals, it can be tough when you see one that's correct. You think, wow, that one is really bright or really, lighter, like this doe. But that balance is what we're looking for, is light enough to show that delicate pink tint, and light enough to be a real medium dove, a dove color gray.
And then there's one here about why do you have to breed seals and pointed whites to get the American Sable color?
Okay. That's just genetics of the CHL gene. You don't have to breed seals to pointed white, but if you do, you get 100% Sable. And since Sable is the color we're trying to strive to get consistently in a litter, so you have your max showable animals, that is a good cross. However, if you have two good American Sable animals and you breed them together, you're still going to get at least half of your litter often will be showable Sable colored American Sables. You will also get some seals, and you can get your pointed white. But breeding pointed white to your seal is just a way to guarantee that they only all get your one CHL gene. Your CHL gene can only be carried in your seal because the doubling up of those two genes is what creates that pattern, whereas your American Sable is your CHL, so you're trying to affect the ability to get 100% of one phenotype. So that's just a breeder trick to try and get maximal showable colors, but you can't overlook type because that is the single biggest subcategory for American Sable. So I would rather breed two American Sables together that had a complementary type, fur structure, and color, even though I knew I'd get half the litter potentially as unshowable because I'm trying to improve the next generation, not just produce more. I actually want to produce better, and that's the difference.
Let's see here. Do you have any questions, Terry?
I think I asked mine, so I'm good on that. Do you have any more?
Not this moment. It looks like we had Missouri pop in and as to watching us as long as.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I kind of think that is all that we have right this moment.
Okay, well, I really want to say thank you again to Misty. As I said in the other workshops, this is something these people don't have to do, our speakers, but they're more than willing, and we're definitely appreciative of them. We normally have our live workshops, but of course the situation going on now has changed that. So these virtual workshops are taking their place, and we hopefully everybody will be finding them enjoyable and interesting. And if you want to check them out again, as we said earlier, these will be placed on our YouTube channel, and that is ARBA D8 website, and that's 3 different words, ARBA, D8, and website. And all of these virtual workshops, again, are being recorded and will be on the YouTube channel. And also, while you're there, take a look. We have several of our live workshops that were filmed last fall. They're on there as well. One thing I did want to say, we've probably got some newer members here and we talk about the districts. Maybe they're like, what's a district? What's District 8? For those new to our organization, or maybe we've got some 4-H people or FFA members checking this out, the ARBA is around 20,000 members around the world, and that's divided into 9 different districts. Here I am the district director for District 8. And that's actually the largest of all the districts. We make up roughly 20% of the ARBA membership. And what we consist of are up in Canada, we have our friends up in Manitoba and Ontario. And down here in the States, we have Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, and where I'm at here in Ohio. So that's what District 8 is. And if you presently aren't an ARBA member, you know, something I really recommend that you do for the money, it's really well worth it. You get a bi-monthly newsletter magazine called Domestic Rabbits. You get a guidebook, which is full of all kind of good information. And if you would be interested, just check out the ARBA website, and that's at arba.net. We'll see if any more questions are coming in, but Amanda, you want me to go ahead and announce the next workshop or two, or do you have something else right now?
I've got some in here just saying thank you for the workshops, and someone said thank you that we're new to the Lilac breed, and this was very helpful. And it looks like we have a Seattle that just popped in, and as far as somebody that was watching.
Great.
Yeah, and it looks like, and we got some more thank yous. So you can go ahead and announce the others as well.
All righty. Thanks for the permission, Amanda.
You're welcome.
All righty. We've got several more workshops scheduled, and I think those people, as I said earlier, the first three has all been California, so the West Coast has been very supportive of us, and I want to thank Kathy and Armando and today Misty for taking part. Now the next few workshops, we're going a little bit more east for those speakers, and we're getting, you might say not quite the East Coast, but getting over there a little bit more involved. Our next workshop is on May the 16th. And that's at 10 a.m. So we've got a morning one, May 16th at 10 a.m. And we're heading to Michigan for that. The husband and wife judging combo of Doug and Molly Covert. And their presentation is called Let's Talk Britannia Petites. So I want to thank Doug and Molly for getting involved and showing us some of their awesome petites that they have. And the next one after that will be the next day, May the 17th. And this one's in the afternoon at 2 p.m. May 17th at 2 p.m. And we're heading just a little farther east there, and that's in Pennsylvania. Judge Brock Maynor, and he's going to talk on English lops. So I think he's had some really good ones over the years, and you're going to see Brock talk about those English lops. I'm not going to divulge the speakers yet, but just so you can maybe pencil in the dates, May the 20th and May the 23rd, we also have a couple more workshops scheduled. Again, May 20th and May the 23rd. So if you want to pencil that on your calendar, and I guess I'm guilty of dragging out the suspense, but hopefully you'll find those interesting as well. Amanda, do you have anything else?
I'm thinking that's kind of it.
Okay, my friends, again, I thank you for joining us here today. And again, these aren't just for District 8, but this is for everybody across the ARBA. And of course, 4-H FFA members, even if you're not members with ARBA, you know, you're welcome to check it out. We're here to try and help you all and enjoy it. So with that, again, Misty, thank you. Amanda to Control Center, Amanda Behe, thank you for all your efforts. And Jane Bird up in Michigan, thank you for those awesome brochures and flyers that you're continuing to provide us with. Thank you, and we hope to see you back soon. Take care, my friends.